It's hard to get your head round, isn't it? City losing yet again, and that amazing statistic that if Southampton gets something out of it, they'll be the worst performing team in the league over recent weeks. We're all big admirers of Pep Guardiola. We know he's done brilliant stuff. He probably, I doubt, has ever gone through a run like this, ever as a manager or as a player. And you've got to be honest, Henry, he doesn't look like he knows how to solve it or sound like he knows how to solve it.
Yeah, which is sort of slightly strange because you think he would be sending out more positive, confident messages with his sort of public utterances, as much to sort of lift the spirits and to be the sort of, the lightning rod. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson his best press conferences was when the team had just lost, and he would blame it on the weather, he would blame the defeat on us, he would blame the defeat on the referee.
He hasn't actually blamed it on us, Pep, has he?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. And yeah, okay, so he's taken it on himself. Erling Haaland, fair play to him, has sort of taken it on himself. But I mean, first Rodri. Everyone talks about Rodri. I know, but sorry, you sigh. But he's the most important player in the world. He got voted out.
It's not going to make the difference from where they are now to being top of the league, is it?
He makes a huge difference. Psychologically, tactically, ball winning, ball using, that is one element. But the dominoes that have sort of tumbled since him, obviously Diaz being out doesn't help as well, but midfield as well. I mean, Kovacic and Gundogan were just bypassed. I mean, look, absolutely we have to, first and foremost, really give credit to Aston Villa for spotting that, for Unai Emery just saying, right, let's get through this midfield very quickly because there's no resistance there. I had an element of sympathy with John Stones, who got criticised for Villa's first, because he could see that Tielemans was just being left unmarked on his own in the centre circle. Kovacic and Gundogan, who should have been closer to Tielemans. You know what Tielemans is going to do? He's going to turn and he's going to thread a ball through. Stones,
good ball though.
It was a fabulous ball, but Stones had to step out to try and at least try and close him down. He was a split second late. Tielemans' ball, obviously he then threaded it into the space where Stones would have been. So I've got some sympathy for Stones there. But Villa's play, I mean, Morgan Rogers is running with the ball, and that leads back to another broader debate about our City allowing the talents from their academy to leave too early. Obviously, they generate money from them. Well, the Cole Palmer debate, but I seem to remember Cole Palmer at the time when he left, people said, well, that's good money, and we can also look back in hindsight and say maybe they should have kept hold of him. But I think fair play to Cole Palmer, because he wasn't starting regularly for them. I think he started, was it the Super Cup at the start of the season or whatever.
Community Shield as well.
Community Shield, yeah. So, there was obviously a good player there, but he absolutely wanted to play. So maybe it was one of those, moves that sort of suited all parties. But absolutely, they're missing. Pep's always liked working with a slightly smaller squad. And maybe the sort of the injuries and the rotations have caught up with him. It is an ageing squad. Every squad is ageing, from my limited knowledge of chronology. But absolutely, they need to address that. But the midfield is just an absolute wasteland at the moment.
He was talking about actually not necessarily buying in January, because he says he never really does that. He said Laporte maybe 7 years ago, I think he referred to, and that it's not really his thing. But he's got to, hasn't he? But
the issue is, if he says to an outstanding holding midfielder, we want you to come in and cover Rodri for 4 months, if they're a player of substance, I don't know. I mean, it looks slightly different player, but Zubimendi, players like that, they've looked at. I mean, I'm sure they'll have a look at Bruno Guimaraes, but again, slightly different player. No, I agree. I agree.
And then you get Rodri back at the start of next season.
Exactly. So, but a lot of it is psychological. You can just see the confidence is absolutely drained, and that's why I thought fair play to Jack Grealish, who was getting a bit of stick. And he kept running at Matty Cash. He kept being fouled, not simply by Cash, and he kept going. Got booked, I think, in the end. But absolutely. But look, Villa, can we just credit Villa on this? They are. I mean, Tielemans was outstanding.
Really, really well.
Rodgers was good throughout. They've also got one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Well, the best goalkeeper. He won the Yashin Trophy at Ballon d'Or. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Really, really, really good. Now, as I was driving back from St Albans versus Truro, a fascinating debate going on between Cundy and O'Hara, talking about, can you sack Pep Guardiola? The look of horror, I could imagine the look of horror on your face when you hear that. How many games do you go before you say, you know what, Pep, I'm not sure working out. Do you have to lose another 10? Is that enough?
I wouldn't say games, I would say seasons. I don't think it's even a debate. I just think, I mean, it was obviously a fascinating debate, particularly when those two get going. But I just think Pep Guardiola, I mean, he's got a little bit of credit in the bank. And in a way, you just look at it. I think it would be absolutely his decision if he leaves anywhere. I don't think the club are mad enough to sort of ease him out the door. It is, it could be one of his greatest achievements. I mean, he's done some amazing things in his coaching career and his playing career. But if he can turn this situation around now, psychologically with his work with the players, mentally, tactically with his work, maybe he has to move Grealish inside and start Doku. I quite like Doku. I mean, we can argue over his decision making, but at least he does tend to make things happen, get a bit more service to Haaland. I thought it was interesting late on in the game, Phil Foden obviously scored that goal. He's been slightly in the doldrums. It's a collective malaise, but with the amount of games that he's played, it was going to catch up with him at some point. But that was a fantastic finish. So look, you look at Pep. Pep isn't going anywhere. Well, certainly not of his own volition.
We talked a bit about Arsenal earlier on. Just quickly, a brilliant performance. Gabriel Jesus, as I say, 5-1 win. We heard in the news that Saka might not be as bad as feared, but you're in a Rodri territory here, aren't you? If you lose Saka, that's the end of it in your eyes, isn't it?
So he's played. Well, it's not the end of it. I mean, they've got Odegaard and they've got some outstanding players.
Well, City have other players as well, apart from Rodri, but you don't seem to think.
I mean, you look at Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's sort of stepped in on the left side. He's been outstanding. Timber's been outstanding when other players have been injured, particularly at fullback. But you look at Bukayo Saka, who's played 24 games this season, 62 games last season, club and country, 62 games the season before. This was his 250th. Honestly, and you cannot say, why are players getting injured, and then say, we've got loads of games on. I mean, one does lead to the other.
WSL have got a winter break, I noticed.
Have they?
They do. They have a winter break. Just before we get through yesterday's games, you want to hand out credit, as you did to Aston Villa, quite rightly, but credit to Nottingham Forest. I mean, it is no mean feat to win at Brentford, because they are outstanding at home.
Who was your manager of the season? Slot, Maresca, or Nuno? You go
Nuno,
Eddie Howe, probably.
Well, no, it's got to be Nuno at the moment if you were voting for it now, because it is astonishing it's the transformation that he's brought at Forest to take them from where they are to where they were to where they are now. What's it down to?
Partly good recruitment, partly the fact that they are tactically very well organised, partly because he liberates individuals and he gets them playing better. I mean, you look at their first goal at Brentford, left back, Nico Williams crossing for a right back, Ola Aina to score, so they can play like that. And then you've got players like Morgan Gibbs-White. I mean, his skill under pressure, I think, is fantastic. And the way that he threads the ball through, the way they're so quick in transition. Anthony Elanga as well, I thought was outstanding on the counter.
Chris Wood couldn't hit a barn door, frankly, at Newcastle. Was at Burnley. Nobody was saying he's top level striker. Anthony Elanga, people were saying he's not really a Man United player, so he goes off to Forest. So these are players who are playing perhaps above what we thought they were capable of.
Do you know what's interesting? You mentioned Elanga. He did that interview on Match of the Day last night in which he was talking about first Nuno's, had a pre-season with them, has been able to sort of drill them in terms of what exactly he wants from them. But also he made the point that he speaks a range of languages. Portuguese. Well, obviously speaks Portuguese, speaks English well, maybe one or two other languages as well, and that is very, is important in a sort of multinational dressing room.
Do you think Spurs were too swift to get rid of him?
Honestly, I mean, I kept writing columns supporting him, and even I was thinking he's got to go because some managers just aren't a great fit, and he wasn't a good fit there. And maybe he needed to sort of go away, maybe rebuild his own confidence. I don't know. Maybe at Forest, slightly less sort of the sort of focus that he got at Tottenham Hotspur, and it is a fantastic fit for him there.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.